When I was 39, I was struggling. I had just undergone IVF and I gave birth to my daughter. I put on 50 pounds during my pregnancy, which was something I never expected to happen. I went from 120 pounds to 170 pounds, and I thought that losing that weight would be relatively easy for someone like me who is passionate about fitness and health. And what I found was the things that used to work for me in my 20s and 30s were no longer working the same way. If you told me at age 42 I would feel better than I ever felt in my 20s and 30s, both physically and mentally, I would never believe you. But I am in a really great place now, and I wanted to share what's worked for me. Some of the practices that I implement in my day-to-day routines, they have become absolutely essential for me, and they are complete game changers. And in this video, I'm gonna take you through what helped me the most when I was in a really tough spot postpartum to where I'm at now, which is just feeling my absolute best at age 42. Welcome back to my channel. My name's JoAnna. I am a toddler mom, an entrepreneur, and I'm passionate about holistic living and fitness. I had reached a point after I gave birth where I didn't even want to leave the house. I didn't want to buy new clothes. I wasn't feeling good about myself, and I had never felt that way in my life. I've always been a person who's been into fitness and ate relatively healthy and just had all of the right things and the tools in the toolbox to help me. Even if I indulged a bit on a vacation or something like that, I'd be able to shake off weight really easily. So for me, I had lost about 10 pounds after my daughter was born. The first 10 after that came off relatively easy, and then I got stuck. And the same day-to-day routines weren't working. I increased the number of workouts that I was doing, and I thought I was eating healthy and clean, but the pounds just weren't coming off. So I had a conversation with my trainer. He is very passionate about his fitness and very dedicated to his diet. And I said to him, I've been training more than I've ever had my whole life, and I'm not seeing the results. What can I do here? So we really took a deep dive into my diet. And that's where I started to realize my day-to-day diet wasn't as good as I thought it was. So one of the first questions that he asked me was, how are you starting your morning? And my morning routine and everything about my morning has completely shifted from then till now. So I'm going to walk you through what the biggest changes have been. But one of the things that he said to me that really stuck out was, what are you starting your day with? And for me, it was something like a Starbucks latte or a cappuccino and maybe a croissant. So in retrospect, probably not the best choices for somebody who was trying to lose weight. If you really dive into those labels, what you're going to see is that a lot of these drinks are really unhealthy, and there's a ton of carbohydrates. Especially if you're adding sugars and sweeteners to them, which I wasn't, but still overall the milk and things like that would just really get those numbers up. So I had to really change that up, and I'm going to take you through exactly how I changed up the morning coffee situation. Still a big coffee drinker, but I cleaned it up a lot. And that was just kind of an eye-opener for me. So the next things that I implemented was getting a scale. So I actually have two scales from a brand called VeSync that I absolutely love. You can get each of these for about $20 on Amazon, and I can't recommend these enough. So one is a scale that is going to help you track your metrics in depth. So just getting on the scale and seeing, your weight is one thing. So just really seeing and taking a deep dive into some of these more in-depth numbers will help you with your progress. And the app will actually track these over time. So I can go back and see when I started tracking, which was in 2023, right up until now. So it's got these nice little graphs. You can set goals, but more importantly, I'm looking at my body fat as a percentage and my visceral fat. So it will even tell you if those numbers are in line with what you're trying to accomplish. So for me, my body fat right now, it's at 19.5%, and they're telling me that that's on an athlete level, which makes me really proud. And my visceral fat is at 1. It's saying that that's excellent. When I was in this struggle, it was at about a 3 or a 4. So we've made some really good progress here. So I love this app for tracking your numbers. Secondly, what I also started using a little bit more recently is this food scale. So it's by the same brand. And what you can do is you can weigh your food, or you can just manually input things. It has a lot of things already preset in there. So I can say, for breakfast today, I had 3 eggs. 3 eggs, it's going to preload with, how much protein they have, how much fat, how many carbohydrates. So if you eat 3 eggs, you're looking at about 18 grams of protein right off the bat. So it sets my macros. I put in a goal. And the reality is, if you're not in a calorie deficit, no matter what you're doing, doing, you're not going to lose weight. And you have to make those calories count. They have to be good, whole foods, and you want to have more protein than the other stuff, right? So it's all about balance. I'm definitely going to have, toast and bread and pasta and things like that for energy. But overall, I am trying to track these numbers and shift them to a more protein-focused diet. And what you'll realize when you start tracking your calories is that the numbers add up really quickly. I think when I thought I was in a place where I would lose weight, I didn't realize I was consuming well over 2,000 calories a day, which for me just wasn't going to be enough for me to start shedding weight, right? So just this morning, I looked at this new place that opened in Beverly Hills. They had their menu online called Pura Vida. It's supposed to be a healthy kind of place. And in looking at their menu, what I loved was that they show you exactly how many calories are in each menu item. And some things that seem healthy, like, a relatively healthy breakfast burrito or eggs and toast, on their menu, they're pulling in like 700 to 900 calories. So if you're trying to stay in a calorie deficit, I would definitely recommend checking every label. I also love a food app called Bobby Approved. So Bobby Approved was something that I started using, again, when I was getting serious about my weight loss journey. I would pop things in there and be really, really surprised. For example, there was this smoothie called Owen, and the brand literally stands for only what you need. And you would think that this is good ingredients. It's touted as like this easy, on-the-go protein shake, but Bobby will highlight some of the not so great ingredients in a product like this, as well as many other things. So I would definitely recommend that. As a mom, I'm also really conscious about what I buy for my daughter. I want to make sure there's no added sugars and things like that. So I run it through Bobby Approved. He's either going to give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So make sure to check out Bobby Approved before your next grocery run. So I like to cook a lot of meals at home whenever I have the time for it. So a morning for me will typically start with eggs. I love eggs. They're especially great for women who are pregnant or trying to get pregnant. So big fan of eggs. Then I like to make my own smoothies at home. I find that, you go out and pay all this money for these smoothies when you can do them better yourself. I have a NutriBullet, pack them up with superfoods, throw in collagen, flax seeds, whatever I need for the day. I'm putting that into my smoothie. So I share some really great smoothie recipes on my blog. Make sure to check out some of those videos if you're interested in those. So that's, again, a great way to just boost those protein goals. And then leading into dinners, I go out a lot. I am very social. So dinner is where, you can't really control as much. You don't know what's going into the meals, and you have to estimate if you're counting calories and your macros, like I mentioned earlier. But if you're following the 80-20 rule, you're going to be okay in those situations as long as you're not going overboard. Quite possibly the biggest shift for me in my journey over the last couple of years has been my morning. So I am a big believer in the morning routine. I love watching all of these influencers who, post about what really works for them, because it's really helped me shape what works for me. So some of the people I look at are Gary Brecka, Mark Wahlberg, he happens to be my celebrity crush, Dana White, they're all into this cold plunge trend, which I know can be controversial for some people. I am a person who literally ran away from the cold. I grew up in New York City. I hated nothing more than a cold day. All I wanted to do was be on a beach and be warm, but I am addicted to the cold plunge. And I'm going to tell you exactly why I love it and how you can work this into your morning, even if it's not something that you have access to where you live. So I got introduced to the cold plunge because my building happens to have one, and a friend of mine was telling me exactly how to kind of mentally prepare yourself for it, right? So one of the things I love is the mental fortitude around it, because I was scared to get in this thing. And my friend said, after you get past the first minute, trust me, it's not that bad. You just literally have to tell yourself the first minute is going to be the worst minute, and then everything else after that is going to be not smooth sailing, but it's not so bad. So I started doing the cold plunge, and what I found was that the endorphin rush and just the mental stamina and the boost that I get, the clarity I get from that in the morning, it just helps me power through my workout. So it's an essential for me in the morning. I wake up 5:30 a.m., which again has been a game changer. I have a toddler running around. She sleeps until 7. So that hour and a half in the morning is my time to just clear my mind, catch up on my emails, get ahead of my day. I started off with a sauna. I do the sauna mostly as a warm up for the cold plunge, but I am a big fan of red light saunas. And if you have access to something like that, definitely try to work it into your routine as many times a week as possible. So I start my day with a 10-minute sauna to warm myself up for the cold plunge, because I think the contrast is what makes the cold plunge more effective. And then I get in 40 to 43 degree water for a total of 3 minutes per day. So it's something that I try to do every day that I can. If I'm traveling, I might skip it, but what I will do in place of that, if I don't have access to the cold plunge, is an ice cold shower. So if you don't have access to a bath at home, or if you don't want to get in your tub and start filling it up with ice, as I've seen some of these influencers who also swear by the cold plunge do, then just do an ice cold shower and try to replicate that for 3 to 5 minutes. And I think you will get a similar feeling to what I'm getting off of this cold plunge every day. From there, I go into a strength training workout. So that's typically around 6:40 in the morning. I either do this on my own or I work out with a trainer for accountability. For me, I need the accountability. If you are good enough and disciplined enough to do it on your own, whatever your thing may be, I'm at a point where I work out 7 days a week and I track my calories on my Apple Watch. So I use this watch to set a goal. It's usually a minimum of 300 active calories. So that takes me about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how much cardio I'm doing. I do a mix of cardio and I do mostly weight training. The reason I love weight training above all things is because it's practical. So strength training really translates for me into day-to-day life. I have a toddler, as I've mentioned. She weighs about 30 pounds. So sometimes we go to the grocery store. She always wants mommy to hold her. So I'm literally carrying this 30-pound weight on me plus 2 bags of groceries. So I think that strength training, as you age, it's proven to help people just mentally, physically, and it's definitely linked to longevity. So that's why I'm a big fan of that for my day-to-day workouts. After I've done the sauna cold plunge workout, then I walk my dog and I make sure to get sunlight in my eyes. And I really think that that's a key component in just overall health and wellness. I came across this study the other day that I want to share with you. It says for every hour morning light exposure was delayed, BMI increased by 1.28 points. So there's actual studies linking to how light is a metabolic regulator. So again, when I was stuck, I knew my metabolism wasn't functioning properly. I knew my hormones were off. So if you can use just sunlight to regulate that, why not go for it? The study further went on to say that even 15 to 20 minutes of overcast morning sun will meet the threshold, and that is going to help you just optimize your hormones. And it's the easiest free boost. As long as you have access to sunlight, why not go for it? I know we got into the topic of coffee. I actually am a really big coffee drinker. I've tried to wean myself off it. I've tried to substitute with matcha. It doesn't work for me, but what I have done is changed up the game in terms of how I consume that coffee. So when I wake up in the morning, I used to jump right into a cup of coffee. As I mentioned, it used to be a Starbucks latte, phase those out. Now I am into this Body Health Perfect Amino Electrolytes. I swear by these. These I take in water. I like the passion fruit flavor the best, but they come in different flavors. Put 1 scoop of this in your water as soon as you wake up. I take this with a probiotic to just kind of, take care of my gut before putting the coffee in. And this will give you an energy boost. It will honestly fix a hangover. It will fix headaches. I've given it to people who've had migraines. They tell me this really works. So this Body Health Perfect Amino Electrolytes, it's just going to neutralize your body when you first wake up. So I would recommend starting your morning off with this. After I've done that, about an hour later, I am moving on to coffee. So I have my Nespresso machine. I make 2 shots of espresso. I put a splash of raw milk. I've jumped on the raw milk train. I know it's controversial, but I just put a splash of this in my coffee. And after that, I do a scoop of the Perfect Amino. This is going to give you a protein boost without breaking a fast. So we love this. This has chocolate flavors and it also comes in vanilla flavors, mocha, whatever your thing may be. So it gives your coffee a nice taste. Put 1 scoop of this in my coffee. My gym trainer is onto this as well. And like I said, you can just put it in your coffee. If you skip the milk, you're not even breaking a fast and you're not going to have any caloric impact by adding this, but you are going to get your protein going in the right direction as soon as you have your coffee. So this is literally stacking wellness habits. The aminos and the coffee to start your morning, complete game changers. Now, I've spent a lot of time going over mornings, which I think are really important for being productive. I have my daughter, I run a business, so I need to max out my days, but equally as important is your sleep at night. So I have tried to really downshift going out to dinner and any social events to 6 p.m., 6:30 the latest. If people ask me to go to an 8:30 dinner, I'm like, that's out of the question, hardly ever. So when I go to dinner, again, I try to eat really healthy, but I think it's super important for your digestion and for your sleep quality to have an early dinner. And then at night, maybe take some magnesium to help with sleep. Getting those 7 to 8 hours is really important for balancing out the hormones, which I realized at certain points in the past few years, mine were really out of whack. So I am a big fan in being your own advocate when it comes to health. So yeah, it's great to go see the doctor, and I go for a physical exam every year, but I take these lab tests, and I recently went for one that I am a big fan of called Superpower. So Superpower is like your physical exam lab test on steroids. So for $4.99, you can get access to over 100 different tests, and they will go into biomarkers in depth. So what I found with Superpower was I have a biological age of 35, which is fantastic because I'm 42. So in my mind, that means I'm reverse aging. I am so motivated to go back and retest because what they've done is they've also given me a customized health plan from a nurse. It highlights some of the deficiencies in my report, which were pretty eye-opening. As a person who takes every supplement under the sun, I'm all about holistic wellness, and I can get into my supplements later, but the stack of them it's pretty big at this point. I came up with several deficiencies. So they give you an overall health score. My overall health score was 83 out of 100, which was really strong. But some of my deficiencies were in vitamin D, in zinc, and some other random levels like iodine. And what you realize is when vitamin D and zinc and some of these levels are out of whack, it can really affect your metabolism and your hormones. So now that I have added additional supplements and changed some of the dosages on things that I were deficient in, I am seeing a big change in my metabolic function. So even if you don't go the Superpower route, you can look into your local lab court, run a hormone panel, run things like that, and figure out where your deficiencies may be. So this has been really helpful in my journey. And on the topic of luxury, health, and wellness, kind of trendy things, I've looked into a lot of them. I've tried some things that work. I have tried some things that didn't work. And so two things that I've become a big believer in that I've absolutely implemented in my routines are lymphatic drainage massages with cupping and NAD+. So I'm going to walk you through both of those. So the lymphatic drainage massage was something that I wish I actually started sooner postpartum because it's going to help you get rid of excess fluid and just boost your overall health and wellness by removing toxins from your body. So they focus a lot underarms. So people tend to get a lot of toxins in here. They will also just, work on my stomach, and I can instantly see myself debloating when I go through one of these sessions. The before and afters are crazy. So if I'm feeling a little puffy, if my diet's been a little bit off, I go to Detox by Rebecca. They specialize in Brazilian lymphatic massages. I guess in Brazilian culture, this is pretty basic stuff for them. They're all about it. But here I found a great place that does it. And what they also do for me is cupping. And I never really understood cupping. I was always like, why did these people have these crazy marks all over their back? Well, now I have those crazy marks all over my back, probably about once a month, because I think it really helps with detoxification. And what they have shown me in these sessions is based on how my body reacts to the cupping, there's certain organs that are tied to those areas and they might be more inflamed. So for example, they've shown me in certain sessions that my kidneys may be inflamed or things like that, just based on how my body is reacting to the cupping. So I think that cupping is another, sort of add-on that you can look into depending on where you're at. For me, it's worked in with my lymphatic massage, which I love, but just regular old cupping I think will help you with detoxification in your body. NAD+, what exactly is that? Well, it was something that I had read about different celebrities using to reverse aging. And what it does is it really just restores all the mitochondria in your body. The first time I tried it, I was at a wellness event. They gave me 100 milligrams through an IV, and instantly I felt like I was getting high. I've never actually been high in my life, but I would imagine that this sensation that I got from my first NAD IV was what someone would equate to being high. My energy level throughout the day was boosted. I had increased mental clarity. So I went back and explored this at another time. I increased my dosage to 300. I would recommend working up slowly because some people have reported that their heart might flutter a little bit or they might get nauseous if they go too fast with this. So it takes me about an hour to do 300 milligrams through an IV. The cost of this is pretty expensive. It's going to run you probably $400 to $600 a session. I do it once a month because I really believe that it is helping me from the inside and out. It helps my skin. It's an overall wellness boost, and I think that it's something that is definitely effective. I think that once you implement even some of these changes and you start to see results, you will find that it's hard to go back to the former version of you, because that's absolutely where I'm at. I am so committed to my health and wellness. And there was a point in my life where I wasn't this mentally mentally and physically strong. And when I look back now, I wish that I had these tools in the toolbox back then. 2015 through 17, I was single. I had just moved to LA. I didn't have my career in order yet and the right friend group. And it was really hard for me to mentally kind of take myself out of some situations that I know now I would be able to work through much quicker. Because I think when you are so grounded in yourself and you implement these things and you get addicted to good things, then you just want to do more of it. It's just a natural phenomenon. And I'm a big believer that overall happiness just starts from within. And when you can ground yourself and fix these things within yourself, it's going to help you in every other aspect, whether it's your career, finding a right partner, just attracting what you want in life. So that's why I am so passionate about everything that I am sharing with you here. And if you want to read up on any of these topics, I am in the process of completely revamping my website. It's inthenojo.com, but I have some blog posts coming up. You can drop me a note there as well and just let me know what you want to hear more on. I will jump into any topics that I can help you with. Just let me know what you're interested in. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you.